welcome back to Q-Score. I'm very excited to chat with my next guest, who music supervised several iconic films, some of the biggest of all time, and was my inspiration for getting into the music supervision game. He's one of the pioneers of the industry, began supervising in 1986, and as I said, went to do some of the greatest films of all time, music films like Say Anything, Singles, Jerry Maguire, City of Angels, all the way up to Vanilla Sky, and many, many more. His collaboration with director Cameron Crowe launched some of the coolest music moments in cinematic history. So let's get on with it. A lot to talk about. My pleasure, Danny Bramson. Great to see you again, buddy. It's been a long time, man. So,
welcome.
Let's start. Age of 25. You were working at the Universal Amphitheater.
Yeah, I started working at the Universal Tour Center at the ripe old age of 16, summer of '69. And I was in the right place at the right time, hitchhiking before Manson, in that late August period. Before Manson, you could hitchhike anywhere. And shed my, I was merely a custodian, cleaning the toilets and the tourists, vomit from the animal attraction there. And I was hitchhiking home, and the guy that ran the place would catch eyes. He'd be forced to pick me up, and live relatively close to then my parents out in the valley. And imagine, when the 101 was just 3 lanes on each side, and this precocious kid rapping this guy's ears off about this new thing, rock and roll, and outdoor concerts, and please give me those, 600 seats worthy of bleachers that surround this Lassie animal act, for the tourists.
That's what the amphitheater was?
And let me book a rock show. And, the summer ended, I made $600, was able to pay my tuition to get into UCLA Film School without borrowing from my father, would have made me cut my hair. And in 1970, that was a big deal. And that same guy, Jules Stein, I went back, moved out as soon as I turned 18, went back to visit my parents one night, to get the proverbial clothes washed and a warm meal. And my hair, I looked like a brecad. I'm washing my first car, and this same guy drove by just out of nowhere and goes, "Danny Bramson?" And he told me, he goes, "Remember that idea you had about doing concerts? Come on over after dinner if you're staying at your folks." And I remember I went over, and he whipped out these blueprints. I obviously infected him 2 years prior, and whipped out these blueprints, taking a flatbed car, building railroad tracks and moving out this animal stunt stage out and bringing in a band cart. And
what was this first show you booked?
The first show I booked was a band called the Grateful Dead. And then, other than FM radio and those great DJs like B. Mitchell Reed, there was really no news, no train tracks to put your ear to in terms of rock and roll, other than Rolling Stone. And I was reading one day in random notes that Grateful Dead had basically went into deep debt to finance the very first touring PA and light system, and to go over to Europe with it, and so you could literally just pick up the phone book, get into 411 and dial, up, and I called up the Dead office up in Northern California in Marin, and they would give me, I gave them my number, and their manager at the time, a guy named Rock Scully, famous guy, would try to reach me. And so I suddenly all but moved back into my parents' house so I could use their phone. And we'd go around the clock. And
how many shows did you book? How many years did you book?
Well, I did those 2 shows that launched the amphitheater, and that was summer of '72. And then worked to get, met a guy named Lew Wasserman, the last great
mogul
titan, mogul of Hollywood, last king of Hollywood, and he took me under his wing and all but became my mentor.
So he helped you make the deal for Backstreet Records?
And what I came in and ran the amphitheater exclusively from 75 through, then we put the roof on in 83, 84, and did that to launch it full year for a couple years. So I did 10 years, 1,000 concerts, ranging from Bowie's Diamond Dogs tour to, I was Sinatra's exclusive promoter, to Neil Young, to name it.
For more Q Score, please check us out at empowerme.tv to find out what goes on behind the curtain and how the film and TV music gets made. It happens right here. Tune in.